From our Toronto studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Aylia Batool. Our top story for today. This year's Nobel Peace Prize winners say they see themselves in the Palestinians being attacked by Israel in Gaza. On Friday, it was announced that Nihon Hidenkyo, known as the Japan Confederation of A&H Bomb Sufferers Organization, had won the prize this year. Toshiyuki Mimaki, co-chair of the organization, watched the ceremony in Norway's capital Oslo on TV. The Irish Times reports that he said tearfully, "It can't be real. I felt so sure it would have been the people of Gaza." Survivors of America's atomic bombing of the Japanese cities Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945 are known as hibakusha, which literally means bombing victims. Approximately 106,000 of them are still alive. The sheer tonnage of bombs dropped on Gaza since October 2023 has exceeded that of the 2 atomic bombs deployed in Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945. An Israeli airstrike on the city of Nabatea in southern Lebanon has killed the city's mayor, along with at least 5 other people, and wounded several others. Mayor Ahmed Khail was conducting a daily crisis management meeting in the city's municipal building when it was bombed Wednesday morning. Lebanese Prime Minister Najib Mikati said Israel deliberately targeted the meeting. The mayor of Nabatea, among others, was martyred. "It's a massacre," Nabatea Governor Huwaida Turk told AFP. The governor has reported 11 strikes on the city and its surroundings. Emergency workers in the area said Israeli bombardment also destroyed a medical facility near the municipal buildings, killing 2 doctors. Israeli airstrikes in Gaza have killed 65 Palestinians within the last 24 hours, the Palestinian Health Ministry reported. A dawn strike on Wednesday in the Al Nasser neighborhood near Gaza City killed 5 people and left others injured. At least 38 NGOs, including Oxfam and Islamic Relief, have condemned the attacks. They are urging world leaders to intervene immediately to save North Gaza from being wiped off the map. Israeli airstrikes killed at least 23 people and injured 31 others across southern and eastern Lebanon in the past 24 hours. The strikes targeted multiple districts, including Nabatea, Bint Jabil, and Marjayun in the south, and Zehle and West Bekaa in the east. In Gaza, according to official figures, at least 42,344 people have been killed and 99,013 wounded in Israeli attacks since last October. However, a report in the British medical journal The Lancet in July estimates that the death toll may be as high as 186,000. The U.S. has issued a 30-day ultimatum to Israel to improve humanitarian conditions in Gaza. It is threatening to a pause in military aid if substantial progress is not made on the humanitarian front. In a joint letter to Israeli officials, Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin highlighted insufficient levels of aid reaching Gaza. The U.S. demands a daily influx of at least 350 aid trucks and unrestricted access of humanitarian groups, especially in northern Gaza, where Israel has imposed blockades. The White House reassures the message was not a threat, but a serious call for action. Meanwhile, Senator Bernie Sanders has called on President Joe Biden to halt arms sales to Israel. Sanders cites violations of U.S. and international law amid Israel's ongoing war on Gaza. The New York Times has denied accusations of publishing altered CT scan images in a recent essay detailing shocking accounts from healthcare workers in Gaza. Opinion editor Kathleen Kingsbury emphasized that any suggestion of fabricated images is false. She confirmed that the Times possesses graphic photographs corroborating the reports of children suffering gunshot wounds due to Israeli attacks. Kingsbury says they were not published because they are too horrific for publication. The essay, featuring first-hand accounts from doctors like Firoz Sidwa, highlights the dire situation in Gaza. It includes reports of severe malnutrition and psychiatric distress among children. Sidwa is calling for the U.S. to reconsider its military support for Israel. The U.S. has sanctioned a Palestinian charity, claiming that it funds terrorism. It has labeled the Semidun Palestinian Prisoner Solidarity Network a sham charity, alleging that it funnels funds to the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, or PFLP. The U.S. Treasury, in collaboration with Canada, said Semidun operates as a key international fundraiser for the PFLP. Treasury's acting Under Secretary Bradley Smith said groups like Semidun misrepresent themselves as humanitarian organizations, diverting critical funds to support terrorism. Canada has also listed Semidun as a terrorist entity. The PFLP, which has also taken part in the fight against Israel in Gaza, was designated a foreign terrorist organization and specially designated global terrorist by the U.S. in October 1997 and October 2001, respectively. Palestinians seen burning alive in Israeli strike on tent encampment identified. Details come after the break. Stay tuned and we will be right back. Welcome back. A heart-wrenching image has surfaced from Gaza City, showing a young Palestinian being burned alive while hooked to an IV after Israel bombed a hospital this week. The person has been identified as 19-year-old Shaban Al-Dalo, a software engineering student at Al-Azhar University. Having been displaced multiple times due to Israel's ongoing war, he sought refuge in the courtyard of Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital with his family. In footage shared online, Al-Dalu had described the dire conditions they faced. He said, "We constructed this tent ourselves, suffering homelessness, limited food, and medicine. Israel bombed the hospital, sparking an inferno that tore through the tent encampment where Al-Dalu and his family were staying." Videos and photos showed the teenager burning alive, screaming for help, with an intravenous drip still attached to his arm. Al-Dalo's mother also burned to death in the Israeli attack. A Georgia judge has declared local election officials must certify results, dismissing claims of election fraud as unfounded. Fulton County Superior Court Judge James McBurney ruled against Fulton County Board of Elections member Julie Adams. She had sought to claim discretion in certifying election outcomes. McBurney emphasizes that election officials have a mandatory fixed obligation to certify results. He said Georgia voters would be silenced if such discretions were allowed. The decision comes as early voting begins in Georgia, marking what voting rights reporter Ari Berman calls a big victory for democratic norms. Advocates mark the ruling as a setback for Trump-aligned election deniers who have sought to undermine the integrity of the electoral process. Lawyers and voting rights groups hailed the ruling, asserting the voters, not officials, determine election outcomes. Georgia was a key focus of baseless claims by former President Donald Trump and his allies that the 2020 election had been rigged in favor of President Joe Biden. Critics say Trump and the Republican Party have been preparing for months to challenge the 2024 election. In a setback for Democratic presidential candidate Vice President Kamala Harris, the Michigan Firefighters Union has opted not to endorse her candidacy. The union sided instead with the non-endorsement stance of the International Association of Firefighters, or IAFF. Despite discussions over 10 days, union leader Matt Sarr said while members believe Harris is the best choice for labor issues, they will follow the IAFF's recommendation. Harris's campaign officials had hoped to secure the union's support in the critical swing state. Union leaders are under pressure from the IAFF to refrain from individual endorsements that could harm Harris's campaign, particularly in battleground states. In a significant split from GOP presidential candidate Donald Trump, Republican Representative Byron Donalds had said no to U.S. military deployed domestically. Byron's comments come after Trump suggests troops may be necessary to handle radical left lunatics ahead of the upcoming election. Donalds, a Trump supporter, acknowledged deploying the National Guard could be appropriate, but he firmly opposes the use of regular military forces on American soil. He emphasizes this principle is rooted in long-standing U.S. law. Trump's remarks prompted backlash, with Vice President Kamala Harris' campaign declaring such suggestions should alarm every American who cares about their freedom and security. A delegation from the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, or OIC, met with Chinese Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs Deng Li this week. This was to discuss a range of issues concerning China's Muslim community. The delegation included representatives from 26 member states, the General Secretariat, and the OIC Independent Permanent Human Rights Commission. It is in China on an official visit at Beijing's invitation. The delegation was led by OIC's Assistant Secretary General for Political Affairs, Yusuf Al-Dubai. The OIC issued a statement saying the two sides appreciated what it called the constructive dialogue. They discussed various shared interests, including the status of Muslims in China. It will visit the northern Tianjin city and the eastern Turkestan or Xinjiang Uyghurs Autonomous Region. It will visit northern Tianjin city and the eastern Turkestan or Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. Xinjiang is home to more than 10 million Uyghurs, the Turkic Muslim group that makes up around 45% of the region's population. Lawmakers in several countries, including Canada and the United Kingdom, have declared that China is committing genocide against Uyghurs. A 2021 report by Human Rights Watch noted that the Chinese government has committed and continues to commit crimes against humanity against them. The chief of India's ultra-Hindu nationalist Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, or RSS, is blaming external forces for toppling the Sheikh Hasina government in Bangladesh. Mohan Bhagwat has expressed alarm over ongoing threats to Hindus in Bangladesh. Speaking at the RSS headquarters in Nagpur, Bhagwat claims the regime change was orchestrated for selfish purposes. The government of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's was ousted in August. Bhagwat criticized the narrative that portrays India as a foe and Pakistan as a friend, despite India's pivotal role in Bangladesh's independence from Pakistan in 1971. He warned nations on the rise like Bangladesh often face destabilization attempts, fueled by ideologies which attack cultural identities. He called for global Hindu unity to counter these threats and restore cultural pride. RSS is considered the patron organization of all Hindu nationalist forces, including India's ruling Bharatiya Janata Party. That's all from our Toronto studios. Thank you for watching Muslim News. We are a community channel dedicated to bringing you stories you can trust. Please like, share, and subscribe to our content. You can also comment to let us know what you think of our coverage. You can donate now by visiting muslimnetwork.tv/donate. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum.